This video was brought to you by CuriosityStream. Last Thursday, the Bank of England raised interest rates by 0.5 percentage points to 1.75%, marking the largest single increase since 1995 and a return to their highest level since the financial crisis. On top of this, the bank's predictions for the economy were pretty dire. A recession as long as the one after the financial crisis and as deep as the one in the 1990s. So in this video, we'll explain the bank's forecast in more detail, just why the outlook is so bleak and what, if anything, the government can actually do about it. If you like our videos, then be sure to subscribe to get more from us and help us get to 600,000. So, first things first, what does the forecast actually look like? Well, not good. Broadly speaking, the Bank of England sees three interlocking issues facing the economy: a continued spike in inflation, a fall in household incomes, and a long recession. When it comes to the inflation side of things, the bank is predicting that CPI inflation, the main measure of inflation, will continue to rise, likely peaking at a staggering 13% in the final quarter of this year, September to December. And that figure would be 6.5 times the 2% figure that the bank is mandated to hit. The main driver of this huge spike in inflation is the cost of energy. And throughout the bank's monetary policy report, the role of energy pricing is clear. In fact, just 2 sentences into the main report, the bank stresses the importance of the doubling of wholesale gas prices due to Russia's restrictions on the supply of gas to Europe and the risk of further curbs. So the bank is making it clear that Russia's restrictions on the supply of gas to Europe are only making the inflationary issue worse, both by directly affecting the price of gas and electricity for households and through knock-on effects, like increasing the price of fuel, transportation costs, the cost of manufacturing, etc., etc. Energy isn't the sole thing to blame, however. In its report, the Bank of England also notes that domestic inflationary pressures have also increased, a veiled reference to the fact that the tight labour market, with extremely low levels of unemployment, has led to sharp private sector wage growth. And if combined with sustained price rises, this wage growth could spike what's known as a wage price spiral, with wages and prices chasing one another ever higher and creating a chaotic inflationary feedback loop. But while private sector wages have risen somewhat, they're still well behind inflation, which is why the bank expects households to face the largest hit in real-term household incomes since records began in 1963, with a sharp 3.7% fall over 2022-2023, largely driven by increases in the energy price cap. For those of you who don't know, the energy price cap was introduced back in 2019 and was meant to, as the name suggests, cap energy prices. The energy regulator Ofgem would set hard caps on the unit prices of gas and electricity on a 6-month basis, based on the wholesale prices of energy in the months previously, with these caps applying on all standard variable tariffs, in effect, the default tariff after any fix or contract expired. And initially, this cap was well received. Those not actively switching tariffs saw a cut in costs, with cheaper deals out there for those willing to search around. The problem being that the cap was never really designed to cope with a sustained explosion in wholesale energy prices. In fact, with the cap now rising, household fuel bills are now projected to rise by upwards of 75% in October and then again in January. According to latest research from Cornwall Insight, the cap coming into force in October will put the average bill at about £3,600 a year, nearly double the current level of £2,000 today and over triple the 2021 average. In January of next year, the cap will shoot up yet again to an estimated £4,300, and it's expected to stay above £3,000 until at least 2024. So we've learned that inflation is making households poorer, energy bills are going up exponentially, so let's deal with the last depressing thing, the recession point. Because the Bank of England now predicts that the UK will enter a recession, defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth, from Q4 of this year, lasting all the way through to the end of 2023. And if the bank is correct, this would mean that the impending recession is as long as the one we experienced during the global financial crisis. Though luckily, the bank expects the coming recession to be far more shallow. That being said, the recession is still expected to drive unemployment up from its current 3.8% to about 6% by 2025. So you get the idea. Things aren't looking good for the UK economy, which brings us onto the final part of the video. What can the government do about it? Well, the government has already announced an energy bill support scheme, which will see each household with a domestic electricity connection in Great Britain receiving a £400 non-repayable discount. Liz Truss, the frontrunner in the Conservative leadership race, and thus likely the next Prime Minister, has also said that she would implement a temporary moratorium on green levies, and projections by Ofgem put the value of these green levies at £155. However, even if Truss does scrap the green levies, that would bring us to a grand total of £555 off the average energy bill, well below the £2,500 expected increase. That means if the government really wants to keep energy bills anywhere near their previous levels, then it will have to do something more drastic. The French, for example, forced their state energy giant, EDF, to take an enormous hit and limit annual increases to just 4% back in January, before fully nationalising the company last month. Now, while France has a very different economy and energy grid to the UK, which makes it difficult to isolate the variables, this does seem to have helped. And France is currently seeing some of the lowest inflation rates in Europe. So it could be a model that's worth at least examining. It's not just that people are looking at, though, because the UK's relatively high inflation rate has sparked some conversation among Conservative leadership candidates about amending the Bank of England's mandate. Currently, the bank is under an inflation targeting mandate. They're supposed to keep annual inflation at around 2%. But there's been talk for some time about whether inflation targeting mandates are actually fit for purpose, with calls for a move towards an average inflation targeting model, aka price path targeting, which would allow inflation to run hot or cold for a year here or there, as long as the multi-year average was still about 2%. Now, whether this would actually help the UK deal with inflation, akin to the sort that we're currently experiencing, is an open question that's hotly debated by economists. But the mere fact that politicians are talking about amending a mandate that's held strong for 25 years demonstrates quite how desperate they are, and quite how bad things are looking here in the UK. By the way, if you want more from TLDR, then you should head over to Nebula. You've likely heard us talk about Nebula before, but give me 1 minute to explain why you should care. And as always with TLDR, there's 3 points. Firstly, signing up to Nebula gets you a ton of additional TLDR content. We have a whole bunch of videos exclusively for Nebula, including all of these full-length TLDR videos, as well as exclusive interviews and a bunch of fun videos, like our studio tour and our team attempting the British citizenship test. And that number doesn't even include the daily briefing. So there's a ton of extra TLDR every single day. Secondly, everything on Nebula is ad-free. And that's not just TLDR either. That's all of your favorite creators, like Wendover Productions, Real Life Law, Polymatter, Legal Eagle, Half as Interesting, and many others. And all of this content is ad-free, so there's no mid-rolls, and I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. Thirdly, signing up and watching on Nebula really helps the channel. Here's the maths. TLDR viewers signing up to Nebula has significantly improved our ability to monetize our content, which in turn has allowed us to begin employing more people and investing more in new technology to improve our content. Now, you might not have noticed it immediately, but you will very soon, and signing up is super helpful. So you're convinced, right? Did I do it in a minute? Who knows, this is pre-recorded. Anyway, if you do want to sign up to Nebula, I've got good news, because we've done a deal with CuriosityStream, home to the best documentaries available online. So if you sign up to their streaming service using the link in the description, you'll get CuriosityStream for the crazy low price of $14.79 a year, and you'll also get access to Nebula. That's right, 2 streaming services for less than $1 a month. And by the way, CuriosityStream is awesome. It contains absolutely boatloads of high quality documentaries on all kinds of topics that I know TLDR viewers are going to love. So if you want to get both for less than $15 a year, then the link is in the description. And if not, well, you can't say I haven't tried to convince you. Thanks for your support.